It's the beginning of February, and another year of fantastic releases is about to kick off. By now you might have heard the word that a game with one of the more generic names for a video game ever conceived is the cat's meow, and that game is Monster Hunter World. If you have friends and family, or even watch nerds on the internet that are playing it, you've heard talk about how amazing of a game it is, and how you should pick it up. How it's such a great game because, well, it's good. They said so. Ugh. Leave it to fanboys and fangirls to push you into buying a game, all the while leaving you asking yourself, why should I? Fortunately, you're smart enough to ask the one and only Overlord, and you might even have a high enough IQ to understand Rick and Morty. In this video, I will guide you through just what the heck this game is all about, and what types of gamers this will appeal most to. If you give your soul to me in all my unholy magnificence, I may even throw in some tips and tricks for those who decided to give it a try.
Oh, hey, it's you!
Traditionally, the Monster Hunter games have a long and storied history of memorable characters like... okay, so it's clearly not a character-focused experience, so much so that the supporting cast goes by such names like The Handler. Which, by the way, The Handler MVP Best Supporting Actress, get on it, the Oscars! The characters are actually pretty memorable, and most hold up as their own distinct personality, despite how little narrative impact any of them actually have, and the fact that they don't even have names. With Monster Hunter games, the plot usually isn't that complex either. This is a game called Monster Hunter, not Shakespeare writer, but I will say that Monster Hunter World starts things off with enough excitement to reel in anyone, old or new, to the franchise. Things move at quite the clip, and before you know it, you're already facing the monster the size of a mountain! A vast improvement over the pacing of the previous entries in the franchise. Still, at the end of the day, the plot's just a vehicle for gameplay and serves little else. What it lacks in plot and characters, it makes up for in world building. There is so much the game shows you as you travel through the environments, hunting and gathering while wildlife thrives all around you. It's rare that you come across a game that really feels like it still exists whether you're playing it or not. When you venture out into the new world, the monsters let you know that you are invading their turf. Trust me, it's pretty obvious. You will usually catch monsters wandering about, even ones that you're not even trying to hunt. And sometimes you may catch it in the middle of the meal, but sometimes it might catch you in the middle of a fight. And I have to say, some of the coolest interactions are when a monster enters the territory of a bigger, scarier monster and it gets his butt handed to it. That is a story that's told through the environment, and that more than makes up for the so-so plot and character-based narrative that will guide you through the game. Still, if a strong story aspect is crucial for your gaming experience, this might be a deal breaker for you. If you love games that change how you look when you get new gear, then this is one you're gonna want to take a closer look at. Everything you use is going to be crafted from materials that you gather either from the world or you carve from the monsters that you defeat. And they're mostly going to be carved from the monsters. This means that every piece of gear you make and every weapon you upgrade is going to have its own distinct look, based on the monster that you used to craft it. They all look fantastic, and I'm telling you, my minions, Fashion Hunter is real. Enough with the flavor, the dressing, the fluff, because when it comes to a game like this, the combat is the real good stuff. What you have is essentially a single/slash multiplayer boss gauntlet. There are various weapons to choose from, each with their own moveset, and there's a lot of hidden complexity to them. You have a few items to help you out, and that's about it. There are no level ups or stat points to outmath your opponent. This is really a game of preparation and pure skill. The controls may seem a little unorthodox at first. You swing exactly where you aim, not necessarily where you intend to. There's no canceling out or correcting an animation to dodge or guard, or make sure you're actually hitting the monsters. When you line up your strike, you're really committing to it. Part of learning all of this combat is to know when you can attack, how long your combos last, and when you are most vulnerable. Combat really is the meat of the game, so practice, practice, practice. Patience is key, and you're going to get your butt handed to you a lot, especially if you're a newcomer to this series, but that is okay. There's no pausing in the middle of a fight, so mastering the menu to quickly select and use an item during that fight is key. This keeps the action hot, and it might sound a little bit intimidating, but monsters will also get tired and periodically move around the map to different areas. You can always run away too, so you have a break to cool down and chug some potions when things are getting a little too intense. Additionally, if a monster like, say, a Rathian is mopping the floor with you with its wicked tail somersaults, you can just chop it right off and stop it from smacking you about. Each monster has several areas that you can attack or break, damage, or even sever them during a fight. Doing so will successfully influence how the monster behaves throughout the rest of the battle, and it's usually in your favor. Not to mention, you can get some sweet bonus rewards for doing so. You can also amplify the fun by teaming up with 3 of your most devoted best friends to hunt monsters that have been scaled up for multiplayer play. Not enough friends to team up with? Coordination amongst randoms can be fun online as well. Okay, so that's all well and good, but comparative experience can tell you a lot more than my glorious rhetoric will. So what games might this compare to? As much as this might upset the Monster Hunter subreddit, those that enjoy the big boss fights of a game like Dark Souls, or even Cuphead, will find themselves right at home in a, albeit much more forgiving, environment. It's a game that rewards preparation for your fights, anticipation, and technique. It's not a game that you can just outgrind. Monster Hunter World is one of those games that is extremely polished and has a lot of little details to love. You have your Palico that supports you in hunts. It's a customizable cat companion that has its own little weapons and armor too. You can eat meals before a hunt to gain extra health, stamina, and other boosts. Personally, one of my favorite things is Swole Chef, who's in charge of the main kitchen. Yeah, get pumped! The environments are absolutely gorgeous, and the soundtrack is pretty serviceable. It is designed in a way to create some really awesome, feel-good moments that get your blood pumping. Sometimes you'll get help from an unexpected ally, and other times, you'll slay a creature in style. There are so many more things that you could dig into underneath the hood that this video really does a disservice to a lot of it. The combat is actually deep, and the mechanics are fun to read about if you're interested in taking a peek at that sort of thing. I'm only partway through the game now, and I'm still discovering cool and new things every time I sit down and play. Even without all that extra knowledge, however, the hits feel impactful. Parts and scales fly off the monster with every hit. It's a visual touch that makes combat so much more satisfying. Oh, and if your weapon has affinity, which is a critical hit chance for dealing bonus damage for every hit, the flash effect that happens when you land that critical strike amps up the feeling of badassitude and impact even more. If you do plan on picking it up, don't be intimidated. If you don't like the feel of the weapon you are using, feel free to change it. Each of the weapon types have a very distinct feel to them. It's almost like playing a different game when you switch out. Don't be afraid to ask for help or advice or look stuff up, but remember this is a game where there is no right or best weapon or armor. The only right way to do something is the way you're doing it as you're playing it. Take things one big beastie at a time, learn them, get pummeled by them, and eventually overcome them. I love playing solo, but having friends to learn with you could make this experience even more memorable. Monster Hunter World is a hearty stew from a little-known restaurant that suddenly got popular. Everything that gave it the signature taste is still there, but there was a lot of thought and effort put behind it to make it more palatable for mass consumption. Everything they streamlined from the previous games was 100% on point in cutting down the tedious grind and complexity and putting the focus solely on what makes the franchise stick to the ribs of gamers that love it so much. This stew, much like a well-done steak, is so tasty!
Nice! That looks so tasty!
Stay tasty out there, my minions.